Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Basalt Town Council meeting for Tuesday, September 27th, 2022. Happy to see so many smiling faces in our audience tonight. And we've got an action-packed agenda. So we're going to start with a call to order and a roll call to see who all's here.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let's begin with Elise Hoddle.
Present.
Ryan Slack.
Here.
Bill Kane.
Here.
Peter Schindler.
Present.
Glenn Drummond.
Here.
David Knight.
Here.
And Miss Anderson is out this evening.
Okay, thank you. Next order of business is our consent agenda. So we have two items for tonight. The first is the minutes from September 13th meeting, and the second is a request from the Aspen Valley Ski Club for a special event activity permit for the annual ski swap. This is basically Market Street, a street closure out at Willits for the ski swap. So entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda unless there's discussion.
Mayor, I move that the town council approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Consent agenda is approved. So at this point in our meeting, we will open the floor to public comment. And public comment can either come from folks that are actually here physically in attendance, or we will also accept call-ins and for those that want to attend virtually. So I'll remind those that are watching the meeting remotely that access to the town council meetings, which you obviously know already if you're dialed in, is at www.basalt.net. And so click on September 17th, get the packet open, and on the meeting access instruction page, click on the link to join the webinar. You will then be go into a waiting room, and our town clerk would admit you to speak to town council. So anyone in the audience would like to address the council about anything that's not scheduled for a discussion later on in the actual agenda tonight? Okay, no. Do we have any call-ins that are interested in addressing council for items not on the agenda tonight?
If you're on the Zoom webinar and you wish to speak to council as part of the public comments, please raise your hand. Looks like we have
Okay,
no-
so we'll certainly accommodate people if they had trouble getting in, but we'll keep moving forward here. So we just have mayor and council reports and comments, so I'll open the floor, see if there are any reports or comments from fellow councilors. Elise?
Yes. So last week I attended Mountain Towns 2030 Climate Solutions Summit. It's a mouthful. And it was a lot of fun to gather with fellow mountain towns, ski resort towns, and talk about climate solutions. Folks were there from Park City, from Jackson Hole, and of course Colorado. And I attended a number of different sessions, but my favorite was the Zero Waste Climate Connection. And there's some really interesting information here. I'll send this around to the rest of the counselors if you're at all interested. But the statistic that really caught my eye was that 42% of our climate impact in the U.S. comes from our stuff and our food, how we make it, haul it, use it, and throw it away. So as evidenced by an agenda item later on in this session, we are doing lots around beneficial electricity and moving that sector of energy forward. So I would like to draw council's attention to waste and start looking at some solutions in that arena.
Great.
So.
Yeah, excellent, thanks. So I attended the Moving Mountains Conference on Friday and sat at a table with a gentleman from Nepal, a young woman from Honduras, we had two people from France, and it was, we all decided on English, I think, as the common denominator, but it was fantastic. They all came with a host of questions. These are all mountain communities from around the world, and all the issues were water resources, land resources, and housing. thought, that sounds pretty interesting. So there was a lot of common ground to talk about, so I think it was really well organized, and they had the conference at Rocky Mountain Institute, and I had a great chance to interact with most of them, and thought it was really a worthwhile endeavor. And I think they're going to publish some kind of proceedings, and one of which I think would be they're going to rate the restaurants in Basalt. Maybe will be one of the byproducts of the meeting. But anyway, it was really a worthwhile gathering.
How authentic our authentic food is.
Yeah, all that. So, anyone else? Comments? David?
Just want to give a shout out and thanks to Sergeant Nino Santiago and the police department for Community Police Academy that wrapped up this past weekend. There were 17 participants.
Yeah.
Great cross-section of the community. I highly recommend anybody who wants to learn more about what the police department does and just get to know some people to go check it out next year. I don't know what the schedule is going to be. It was one Saturday a month, basically from now back, 9 months or so. So it was really, really great. I went to some of them, really enjoyed it. I, again, highly recommend it. And thanks, my fellow counselors, for supporting it. And I'm looking forward to doing it again.
Yeah. Thanks, Greg. That's good stuff. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. So with that, we will turn to council actions, and the first item up is item 5A on the agenda, continued public hearing, second reading, ordinance number 16, series of 2022. It's an ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Basalt, Colorado, approving amendments to the municipal code, amending town code sections 18-23, sustainable building regulations. So Sarah and Amanda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's quite a mouthful.
Yeah.
I just want to introduce Amanda Poindexter. As you all know, we also have some folks in the audience today that are here in support of the code amendments and are able to answer questions that I may not be able to. We have Mike Steiner with Holy Cross, who's also a Green Team member. We have Dallas Blaney and Fi Fowlerman with CORE. Online, if you're able to elevate him, we have Jeff Dickinson, who's our other consultant that's been working on this with us. And Christine may want to speak also in the future, but she'll let us know. So I will just rip into this. I realize 5A and 5B are separate items, but I'm going to kind of just discuss them jointly at this presentation and ask you to vote on them separately. So again, we're asking council to approve ordinance number 16 at second reading regarding code amendments to the building code, as well as to adopt resolution number 56, which is the roadmap to net zero development. And so for second reading, I'm here to respond to what was heard or requested by council at the previous meeting. So if you want to go to the next slide, James, please. I'm going to do a really quick just refresher on the codes and how they build upon each other. Currently, the town is under the 2015 International Building Code, or the IBC, as well as the 2015 Energy Code, the IECC, and Sustainable Building Regulations that were last amended in 2018. So our IBC, this is the foundational code. This deals with health and life safety issues within a home or building. Next would be the IECC, and this is dealing with human comfort as well as indoor air qualities. And our third step in our Basalt repertoire here is the sustainable building regulations. And these go above the I codes. They're intended to complement the I codes. They address such items as water use, waste reduction, renewable energy systems, and more. They are tailored towards the development that's specific to Basalt and our community schools. So structures that have all three of these code components are very highly efficient buildings, and they provide long-term financial savings. And staff anticipates returning in November or December for council's consideration of the 2021 IBC and IECC. So you'll see that in the near future. If you want to go to the next slide. So Mayor, you had asked what other communities are doing a 25% offset. So just to start, kind of frame this, we know that communities all over the state as well as the nation, anyone with a climate action goal are moving towards on-site renewable energy systems as well as beneficial electrification. So I provided some examples of this within staff's memo. And to talk regionally, to look at the core communities, we have the city of Aspen, Snowmass Village, Picken County, Basalt, as well as Eagle County. And you can go to the next slide too if you'd like. You can see that each of these each of the communities that I just mentioned have very ambitious climate action goals and climate action plans. And each community is currently looking at their codes and contemplating adjustments in order to reach their unique goals. We find that communities are really doing this in all in different ways. So, we look at Aspen or Picken County. They're currently employing a home energy rating system compliant pathway that has very specific requirements. In Picken County, a HERS 30 must be achieved, and that's through on-site solar. So there's not this specific 25%. It is through a different kind of system, but is still requiring a healthy dose of on-site renewables. Basalt has very different house sizes than these communities. So Basalt is proposing to employ a different strategy with its renewable offset requirements. We maybe relate a little bit more to Carbondale homes. We're more similarly sized to homes in that community. Carbondale is looking to move to a 25% offset requirement in the coming months or within next year. So I think we'll be seeing more of this kind of actions taking place. When I was looking into this and really looking to find that 25%, magical number, I found you can really go down a rabbit hole looking at these different codes across the nation and really trying to compare codes. But what I did find in common is what I stated earlier, that we're really, any community that has these climate action goals or climate action plan is really looking to on-site renewables and beneficial electrification in order to curb their carbon emissions and meet their climate action goals. So just want to touch on efficiency and resiliency. At the last meeting, valid concerns were raised about the power grid's capacity in relationship to an increasing number of fully electric buildings. So the goal of the Sustainable Building Regulation Program is to prioritize energy efficiency through sustainable design. And so the more efficient a building is, the less energy it really will use. The less energy used, the less it's going to be relying on an energy supply grid. The Holy Cross is very supportive of Basalt's move towards electrification, of course, in developing battery storage systems, such as the system that I recently had the opportunity to tour at the CMC Spring Valley campus. And the more systems like this that come online and become available, it reduces the potential for service disruptions on the grid. Holy Cross is well on target to meet its goal of providing 100% renewable energy by 2030. And as the grid becomes powered by more renewable energy sources, costs are also expected to decrease through this process. The 25% energy proposed to be sourced from an on-site solar energy systems is a strategy that is implemented or being proposed to increase a structure's resiliency. We also know that battery storage systems are a particularly beneficial component in building electrification and resiliency, as they allow for a user to draw energy as needed. And this can allow users to save on electricity costs by avoiding peak periods of accessing from the electrical grid. If you go to the last slide, please. I just want to address the roadmap to net zero development. So this is actually item 5B. Council's being asked to consider adopting Resolution 56, which provides a pathway through code adoption cycles to achieving net zero energy for all new development beginning in 2031. As you see that this is a phased approach. It does not remove gas from existing buildings. Gas appliances and heating are still permitted in the early phases of this roadmap. The final phase would fully eliminate gas lines to new buildings, to new construction. This is an aspirational document. It's intended to be a guiding document. It provides action steps towards achieving Basalt's climate action goals. And we know action steps are pretty important when you really want to get, from A to Z. So I just wanted to kind of refresh you on what that one was about. And then the code amendments that are being presented to council, these have been crafted in response to council's direction over the last year to year and a half. I know that we've had some new councilors come on, and leave, but these have been consistently in response to council direction. They feel like bold moves, But we know that Basalt is not alone in its efforts. We have other communities locally, regionally, nationally going through the same considerations. And we do know that moving towards beneficial electrification really does move the town towards achieving its climate action goals. So there, I will turn it over to Amanda if you have anything, or Jeff online if you have anything you'd like to add.
Just a quick, on the 2025, on the roadmap to net zero, the little table you just had. So the 50% renewables under type 2, on-site balance, natural gas for process loads only, is that, can you describe what that might be? Is that like somebody manufacturing or something that needs natural gas? What is a process load?
So it basically is, gas for cooking and restaurants, the gas that's used aside from the main heating and cooling.
Gotcha, so that's basically, that restriction deals with space heating only, so there still would be natural gas appliances. Okay, thanks. So, sorry to interrupt you there, Amanda, you got the floor.
Oh, it's fine. I guess I really don't have that much to say. I just wanted to, really hit home the fact that at least with all the new construction, with these energy codes, we're really just building a really awesome building that if anything, if power was to go out for any reason and you didn't have any heating source for 6 hours, like, you're gonna be fine because it's built with enough insulation and it's airtight and it's built to keep the inhabitants pretty healthy and comfortable. And also, yeah, just trying to really make the existing buildings better and just doing what they can when they can. So I think that's all I have. I'm not sure if Jeff has anything more to add.
No, I don't have anything. I don't have anything to add to that other than what they're saying is true.
So, well, with that, this is a public hearing, so we're going to take some public comment, but maybe just for the benefit of the audience, certainly the big stars here, the big items are, we're contemplating adopting regulations that require on-site offset, 25%, works out to probably about 3 kilowatts per square foot, 3 kWh per square foot, and that's pretty innovative. And then the roadmap is a resolution. I just would like to make sure everybody keeps in mind that this resolution is an aspirational document. It's not a regulation. We're not adopting laws. We're just saying directionally that's where we want to head. It's kind of like saying, we want to be carbon neutral by 2030, or it's that kind of aspirational statement. So I know there's a lot of concern about it, but just keep that in mind as we take public comment. So with that, I'll open the floor for comments from the public regarding either the code amendments or the resolution, which is the roadmap to net zero. So floor is open for anyone in the audience that would like to address council, or anybody would like to call in. So if you'd like, please come on up and state your name and address, and good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to comment. My name's Jason Auslander. I'm a community affairs manager for Black Hills Energy, just down the road, based in Glenwood Springs. And I wanted to talk about the roadmap to net zero a little bit. I realize that it's a non-legally binding document and that it's not regulation, but we believe that whether it's regulation or not, these goals are going to function as bans on natural gas for those dates, 2025 and 2031. So Black Hill's goal is to preserve our customers' ability to choose the energy source that best fits their needs and their budget. We believe that banning natural gas without the proper technological support is short-sighted, especially in cold mountain climates like ours, and is going to add to the sky-high housing costs that we already all know about in this valley. excuse me. So I think we only need to look to California, which has generally a milder climate than we do, as a current example of a bit of overreach that they're experiencing now because of similar decisions. So like you all, the Aspen City Council is also considering amending its building codes, and they had a work session yesterday about this, and they were talking about electrification and all these different kinds of issues. But they concluded, and I'm just going to read a quote from the staff to the counselors for that meeting, that, quote, "The staff has been considering the feasibility of an all-electric mandate for new residential construction, but feel there are too many questions to recommend that approach at this time." So what they want to do is create a task force to come up with a plan, to have stakeholders involved in that, and we would encourage the Basalt Town Council to do the same thing and eliminate those dates from the roadmap. Also, I attended the 16th Annual Rocky Mountain Utility Exchange Conference today in Avon. An Xcel Energy manager, a marketing manager, who was speaking to, this is a group of electrical providers that are at this conference, and this is what he said. He said, "The utility system of the future is not an electric-only utility system. Gas, the amount of BTUs that a gas system can deliver per hour is far greater than what an electrical system can deliver, and so the gas, not only infrastructure is important, but also storage, because no battery that anybody knows of now can preserve energy from summer to winter and store like you can store gas. And I just also want to make sure that you all know that Black Hills is we believe that natural gas is compatible with sustainability plans and carbon emissions reductions efforts. We just announced a goal that our gas distribution system will be net zero by 2035. We have, so in other words, we recognize the need for clean energy. We are not blind to what's happening in our world. We have wind and solar farms here in Colorado, and I'll just take 30 more seconds if I could. Mr. Mayor, saying thank you. Wind and solar farms that produce electricity on the Front Range. We were the first company in Colorado to stop using coal-fired power plants. And we want to be part of a clean energy solution and a cleaner planet. But we think these solutions take some time to figure out, and we encourage you to pull back a bit, come up with a reliable energy plan for the future that works for everyone. Thanks,
Jason. Let me just clarify something,
Sure.
just make sure the audience understands that in all these provisions, it was not to outlaw or make illegal natural gas for existing users. I mean, basically, this was establishing a new direction for new construction. So,
understand
just
that.
to clarify that there's no proposal to make illegal consumption of natural gas in Basalt. I just want to make sure the headline reads correctly tomorrow.
Right. Yeah, we just think that because this is being adopted by ordinance, that it's going to be pretty unlikely that any natural gas infrastructure is going to make it past.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to address council on our resident? Come on up, sir.
Thank you. I'm Dallas Blaney. I live at 730 Cactus Flats Road in Carbondale, but I work at CORE, so I'm in Basalt every day. We just moved our office across the river there, and I just wanted to speak up in support of this roadmap. And I want to speak to Jason and some of the points he raised as well. That's really the reason I came today. And first of all, I want to applaud Jason and Black Hills. They're doing a lot of work to try to mitigate their climate impact, and I applaud that for sure. But the way he's kind of framed his argument is around 2 points. One is around a threat to individual rights to choose, and the second is around the performance of the technology. And what I want to say to that is that the technology, CORE has been doing this work for 27 years throughout the valley, electrifying, installing heat pumps all up and down the valley, even up at Elk Camp at high elevation. And I think Basalt Vista is a great example of the work that we do and a demonstration of how this roadmap is a really viable plan for the city of Basalt to move forward with new construction. So in my view, and I think in the view of CORE and many in the community, there really isn't any choice here. Beneficial electrification and heat pumps offer a better alternative in every respect. It's cleaner for the folks in their home while maybe one thing to clean up a distribution network, it's another thing to clean up the actual consumption of the gas that's burned. And we know that there are negative health impacts of burning natural gas and propane in the home. The second point I make is it's obviously greener for our community, especially with Holy Cross, moving to fully renewable by 2030. And the last thing is it's more affordable. Natural gas has quadrupled in costs over the last 2 years, and the expectation is those costs are going to go up. So, and with the support coming in from the federal government with the Inflation Reduction Act, the support from Holy Cross, the support from CORE, the support from the community to offset some of those upfront costs in installing and implementing these technologies, we feel like it's a better way to go on every front. So that's it.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else like to address council on the roadmap or the ordinance? Anybody calling in?
If you're on the Zoom call and you'd like to provide comments, please raise your hand. Looks like Christine would like to speak. Let me unmute her.
Thank you, Mayor Kane. My name is Christine Brinkert. I don't live in Basalt, I live on the Front Range, but I came here tonight because I'm a researcher with the Southwest Energy Efficiency Project, where I analyze building codes and in particular the intersection with electrification, including the costs and the technologies. And I work with local governments across the state to adopt some of the similar ordinances and codes and roadmaps as those that you're considering tonight. I wanted to share just a few brief points on the electrification side of things. First, like Sarah mentioned, this is well in line with what other communities in the state are doing. You're in good company undertaking these initiatives. I understand that tonight's ordinance, it goes hand in hand with your November, December adoption of the 2021 energy codes. And I wanted to mention that we already have 11 jurisdictions in the state that are on that code and another 70 or so that plan to do so in the next year. That's about 3/4 of the population of the state. And we know of maybe a dozen or so that have electrification requirements in the works that are either all electric or electric preferred. So I wanted to say that you're in good company. You've probably heard that state law now requires all building code adoptions after July to include the 2021 energy code along with other components, EV ready, solar ready, and electric ready. And so that's become essentially the new minimum. And many jurisdictions like Basalt are recognizing the urgency of the climate crisis and want to do more than just the bare minimum. They don't want to wait for some future technology, but use the technology that we already have off the shelf that works really well. On that note, on the technology and costs of heat pumps, I have a heat pump and I have a heat pump water heater. I absolutely love them. They're awesome. We save money on our energy bill. It keeps us comfortable all year round. Heat pumps, they now go down to minus 22 degrees. So that idea that heat pumps don't work well in our cold mountain climate, it's old and it's outdated. And I'm happy to talk more about that. They don't work in a rare electricity outage, but by the way, neither does a gas furnace or a gas water heater because they too need electricity to run. Last comment on the costs. All electric homes with heat pumps, they can be less expensive to build. It depends on the technologies and the configurations. And besides the Black Hills rebates for heat pumps, the state also has a 10% tax credit, and we have a ton of tax credits and incentives from the IRA. And then it's not just the first cost of construction that matter, it's also the ongoing costs. The energy bills matter too. And we've seen reductions on our energy bills because of heat pump technology. I think that's it, but thank you for allowing me to speak tonight and thanks for undertaking this effort.
Thank you very much. Anyone else calling in or in attendance?
We don't have anybody else.
Looks like there's one more hand went up, so come on up if you'd like to address the council.
Hi, Chris Whaling, live in Basalt. Totally late to the game here about all this. And look, I've been a home builder for 30 years. I'm all for renewable energy. I'm all for buildings that are super efficient. Been dealing with HERS ratings for years. And at first I thought this was gonna be a new, like a binding ordinance for homes, so I applaud you for not kinda forcing that on everybody. But heat pump technology is great, but it's really expensive. And it's super comfortable and it's great. The whole premise behind it is great and it's something we should strive for. But if this technology was economically feasible for the average person, the whole building industry would be using it right now. Not just homes in Aspen, not someone who's building a $2 million home up on Missouri Heights and they've got the extra $150,000. Some of these systems are a lot more, some are a little bit less. But keep that in mind when you're starting to mandate the building regulations, that if the technology was financially viable for the broad population, we'd be using this stuff. I mean, it's simple market economics. Most of the people that aren't building multi-million-dollar homes, they're struggling to afford what they can, and they're doing some upgrades here and some upgrades there and cutting back here and there. But, you know, a home with a heat pump technology and a solar system and a battery backup and a HERS rating in the 40s, like a HERS rating in the 50s is hard and expensive to do. You want to get your HERS ratings down below that, it gets exponentially harder to do, and it's just about throwing money at it. So I would just encourage you over the goals, and I support them. I think it's great. We got to do it. But keep that in mind, that you're going to price people out and you're going to exponentially increase the cost of these homes. And the technology, it's not quite viable right now for electrification. Everybody's got that goal in mind, and that's great, but it's not financially feasible right now for the average person, and the technology's not even out there to really do it on a broad spectrum. So that's my comments. Thanks.
Thank you very much for your comments. Anyone else? Come on up, please. Sorry, I didn't say it at the outset, but we're trying to encourage people to make your comments in 3 minutes. Or
Sure.
That's what
Well,
this
I'll
little
be-
timer is up here. So.
No problem, and I'll be brief. Fi Filerman, I'm at 380 Stagecoach Lane, and I work with CORE. And, you know, the one thing we haven't really talked about too much from the comments is putting this in the context of your climate action goals, right? I mean, one of the things I love about Basalt is that you did declare a climate emergency years ago, and the move towards electrification, especially with new construction, is very much in alignment with those goals. Many of you are familiar with the organization ICLEI, which is a national group that works with municipalities. And several years ago, a couple years ago, they did a high impact actions analysis for Basalt based on their 2017 greenhouse gas inventories. And one of the high impact actions was adopting codes and really moving towards electrification for all new construction. And you know, we know that most of our buildings are built, you know, most of the buildings in town are built out. I mean, Basalt is primarily built out. So you're not talking about a huge number of buildings going forwards, but these are the buildings that are going to be really highlighting this technology, using the technology, showing that it can be worked, and bringing those costs down. And kind of addressing the gentleman's comments just before me, you know, we've seen that if you don't need to bring in a gas line, the costs of building are about even when you go for the heat pumps, because with the costs that you avoid with not having to bring in the gas, it's usually then make up, you can use that funding for your electric heat pumps and things. So that's all my comments.
Thanks
Thank you
for
so
comments. Appreciate that. Anyone else? No callers, no one from the audience. So,
Got one right there, Jeff.
Jeff
Is there-
Dickinson's got his hand
Jeff,
up again.
I'm sorry, do we have one, James?
Yeah, Jeff
Okay,
Dickinson's
Jeff.
got his hand up. Jeff, go ahead.
Jeff is still muted.
Muted. There, I'm
There we
unmuted.
go.
Thank you.
Oh, we can hear you.
Uh,
Go ahead.
Again, on the cost question, you know, what I'm seeing are really a lot. I mean, I heard somebody mention $150,000. I think we're talking in the $5,000 to $10,000 range, and that's before some of the rebates, incentives that are available. You know, you're not running full ductwork usually. You're not bringing that gas infrastructure. So, you know, I think we need to be up to date with when we're talking about costs. They've really come way down. And also, as far as the technology goes, we really are there with the technology for heat pumps. So again, those are kind of old arguments. You know, we're talking minus 22 when we have pretty good efficiency on the heat pumps. So we got to stay up to date with the current information, and that's what we're bringing to you. Groups like SWEEP, which Christine works for, and others and Rocky Mountain Institute right across the street are really providing us with that up-to-date information. So that's all. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? I think that's it. All right, thanks. Comments, discussion, council?
I just have a couple just anecdotal points of, you know, going back to some of the comments we've heard. I'm pricing out water heaters right now, and there is a substantial difference in two 80-gallon water heaters that are electric to two 80-gallon water heaters that are heat pumps, and that's $9,000. That's a lot of money. Now, for me, I can't do that, right? I can't, even with the rebates we're doing, and I've made these steps. I've put solar. I'm doing the battery program through Holy Cross. To heat my house before I had a child, when it was all electric, was reasonable because I kept it really cold. Then I had a child, and it went up to $700 because I have an old 68 house electric baseboard. Should probably get a little more insulation, but totally get all that. But to heat my house with gas is only $150. I just, yes, gas is quadrupled, but where is electricity going? Electricity isn't getting any cheaper either. Even as Holy Cross goes 100% renewable, just because they're producing energy renewably doesn't mean we as customers are going to pay less. And I feel that's something. I want to be green. I want to make these steps, but I also want to be realistic. I feel like we could be pricing some homeowners out of being able to remodel their homes with some of these fees. And I just want to make sure that that's known. I mean, it is great. We do need to make these steps, and we have the climate goals. But there is some reality of cost and cost metrics, and where are these costs going? And you know, I love that we're doing the rebates with Core and the town and Holy Cross, but that still isn't bridging that $9,000 gap. You know, it's definitely bringing it closer. And so I guess that's just some small tidbits of information that I worry about. I worry about the people that have been here for a long time that, you know, want to do something to their house, and now, you know, they have an old construction, and the amount of money it's going to cost to reach a HERS rating of that number to offset some of these other fees, it might break the budget for them. And that's all I was saying.
Thanks. Anyone else? Comments?
I would like to comment.
Elise?
So I totally hear what you're saying, Ryan, but it's probably maybe a good or bad thing depending on how you look at it, that I'm here on the footsteps of, or heels, whatever that phrase is, of this climate conference. So the keynote speaker was Dr. Michael Mann. If any of you saw the movie Don't Look Up, which was a veiled analogy to climate change, Dr. Michael Mann is who Leonardo DiCaprio's character is based on. And he presented to us and basically showed us the timeline of how we can move the needle and still kind of prevent this like catastrophic climate change. And I would say to anyone who is, you know, looking out into the future, that we just don't have that much time. Like, I want Black Hills to be successful in their transition, and I applaud you for that. And, you know, that's really important work that you're doing. We can't wait till 2035. Like 2030 is kind of now the cutoff where it's got to be done. And if this is what it takes to push the needle and get those things to be more affordable, I mean, this is also a question of economics. On the flip side of what I think Jason was saying is, like, if more people are demanding it, then the price comes down because they're producing it in larger quantities. So I think that I have my reservations as well. I think I expressed it last time, my concerns about Resiliency, backup storage isn't quite where we need it to be, but I think we just have to like go for it.
Thanks, Lisa. David?
So I'm in complete support of this ordinance and the accompanying resolution. I think we have to take every opportunity, closer to the mic, every opportunity we get to mitigate climate change. I mean, as Elise alluded to, we're behind the 8 ball, right? And there's not opportunities like this in our community and state and federal level all the time. We have to take advantage of it when we get it. So I'm in support. The roadmap ordinance, I think, is great. I love it that it is aspirational, that it's directionally correct. And it's a North Star for us, I think, to where we want to go, right? Because as we go along, we learn what works economically, what works technologically, et cetera. This will kind of be our guide so we can continue to tweak the code and do the right thing. As far as cost, we can't afford to not take these steps. I mean, we are in a position now that in the long run, everyone's gonna pay a much higher price than some of these construction costs. So I think we have to do it. That said, local, state, federal financial mitigation, I think it's incumbent on organizations to the extent that they can, like our town, counties, power companies, federal government, state government, et cetera, to help ease the transition, because that's the only way it's gonna work. We all have to kind of share that burden together, and so I'm in support of this.
Glenn, did you want to comment?
I'm kind of torn on it. As Ryan stated, the condo we live in has a natural gas fired boiler. It uses in-floor heat. I think our average Black Hills energy bill is $63 a month. To flip side, our Holy Cross bill is right about $62 a month. I don't know what the difference would make in them. Our boiler is pretty efficient. I know I priced those out. It's still about $9,000 to do a combo unit. So I've priced out the, heat pump deal as well. That's right about $9,000-10,000. So no matter how you slice the pie, it's still going to cost you money. But the other thing I don't like about it is I'm generally not a favor of the government saying you don't have a choice in something. But in the grand scheme of things, over the long haul, is it the step in the right direction? Most likely, yeah. But I'm still not a fan of like a government going, you can't have a natural gas fireplace. Just so. They're valid points. I support the whole deal, but it's one of those. It's not really fun for anybody, but we all got to deal with it.
So I'm curious. Just real quick: is it we can't have a natural gas fireplace, or you can, but you got to pay a lot of money for it. You got to offset it.
That's the way it is right now, which I'm fine with because you can have it. The roadmap part where it says.
Well, yeah, by
not allowed,
thing, sure.
That part I have a little bit of it. But yeah, if you're willing to pay the money for it, which isn't necessarily equitable for everybody because somebody might want one and can't afford it.
Sure. I mean, I agree with all the points that make, and I'm in support of it because I feel like it's a have to do for the future. It's a have to do for, the next generation of folks coming up. I feel, and that's where I support this, because I also am kind of skeptical. I'm like, well, wait, you open the door and where do we go from there? But we do have remedies, I think, for hopefully reasonable, I guess, situations to where, maybe it's financial or not, but there's remedies in this from last time that we, at least I think, asked for on the first go around.
There is in the ordinance, and that's specific to the sustainable building regulations, which, I feel like the conversation is getting a little married with the two documents, the resolution and the ordinance. But yes, there is a kind of a relief valve for those that state a hardship, and then it, can be considered and granted.
And I mean, I think one thing the Inflation Reduction Act, that's going to provide a huge incentive, not this year, but next year. So maybe next year the cost of your $9,000 boiler could be mitigated down to, say, $4,500. I don't really know. I haven't seen the numbers on it, but I think the federal government's moving in that direction.
And this does
Yeah.
eliminate outdoor gas fireplaces, correct?
No.
Type 2,
No, you can pay for it.
you can pay for it.
It's a rent fee.
Okay.
That's in the ordinance currently.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. just
Yeah.
And that's
in
existed
type
for some
2.
time.
Yeah, okay.
And how steep is that rent fee? Does it hurt?
Yeah, it's a good sting. But, yeah, we have that REM calculator that'll help calculate that, and it'll, you can look at your fee, or you can look at the offset associated with it as well. And I just want to be clear on the remodels, we're not requiring you to switch out a gas, furnace for something
No, I know that.
electric.
It's
Oh,
just
okay,
like, it was my
okay.
personal, like, I want to try to
Right.
get to a heat pump. I don't
Got
need
it.
to replace the furnace yet, but I've looked at the price of both.
And I think with new development, with these being required in new development down the line, you're gonna have such a tighter, air sealing. You're not, a retrofit to Ryan's point, is a much more difficult thing to achieve with efficiency. You're taking all the right steps, but until you get that really solid, seal, that insulation and air sealing kind of situation first, you could be losing energy still, even with a better, more efficient source.
Sarah,
Great,
can
well,
you,
sorry, go ahead.
can you just bring council up to speed with where collected rent money is going, what that serves?
I'm gonna maybe kick that over to Michelle for.
It's hilarious, because I'm gonna kick it over to James.
Right on.
Well, I think generally we've used REMP monies related to EV charging and bike charging for the most part. What else, Sarah?
I don't know the
In
specifics,
the
I'm
green
sorry, I haven't
team,
been involved in the past in that one.
Generally, green team items for funding. And
So going back into community benefits.
Yeah.
correct.
Great.
Sorry, I can't get more specific, and Susan was kind of the overseer on that, so.
Well, I'll kind of summarize some of my thoughts. One, I intend to vote for both of these measures, but I do want to maybe offer some footnotes. One is I was a little bit troubled by the roadmap upon first reading, thinking, boy, oh boy, type 1 construction, all electric by 2025. That seems like, boy, that's coming right up. Well, the truth is we don't have a lot more new type 1 construction in our community. We've got a very highly managed urban growth boundary. Most of our future development's going to be type 2. It's going to be infill, multifamily housing. We are, in the happy circumstance of at least on about 270 degrees of our perimeter, we are surrounded by deed-restricted open space. So kind of what you see is what you get in Basalt. I mean, we have some important infill pieces, but we don't have a future that's filled with more single-family detached structures. So, for what I would say to Black Hills is that circumstance is really not going to change. There isn't a lot of type 1 business out there in the future, so that one's not it. Secondly, the remodel is a bridge we're going to have to cross when we get there, and undoubtedly there are going to be economic hardship issues. There's going to be a lot we're going to have to wrestle with. And three, I think the technology, 3 years from now in heat pumps, one thing we know about technology, it keeps getting better and things get less expensive. That's the trend in computing and in basically virtually every area of technology. And the fourth thing I would say is I'm very proud of our staff for bringing this forward. Honestly, I think this is good work you guys have done. And so this is our, kind of responsibility to the future. And so that's why I'm voting for it. But that's it. And if there are no more comments.
I just have one more question. So on a heat pump, my understanding, the way these work, is basically like an air conditioner, just reversed. So you've still got like an R134 gas, which as far as ozone depleting gases go, it's one of the worst there is. Refrigerants in period are. So what kind of mitigation efforts are being put forth in this to make sure when these are being installed, if something leaks, what happens to the installer? How are the leaks mitigated? Is that even being addressed? Because I know in the automobile industry example, you know, you gotta be certified to do it. And releasing these gases, that particular is one of the worst things for the environment.
Right, yeah, that's a good question. There are heat pumps out there that do not run off 134 A.
I know there's a newer
Yeah,
version
so
that's
it's
slightly better.
constantly evolving.
It's still
and
slightly better, but they're still terrible. But what kind of mitigation, or what are we even addressing that fact?
You know, I've never heard of them leaking, to be honest, and they're tested before they're drywalled. You know, the mechanical subcontractor will go in there and you know, make sure everything's holding pressure, and I haven't heard of anything if it's not holding pressure, but that's a good question that we should, think of, and maybe talk to the mechanical subs, see what their protocol is.
Jeff Dickinson has his hand up on that question. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I mean, this is just like Black Hills is dealing with their distribution network. This industry is changing and evolving and getting cleaner and cleaner as time goes on. And, you know, in the years I've been involved in this, you know, these gases have always been an issue, and it's amazing. We've changed gases over time, and they're getting better, and they'll continue to improve. So I think it's definitely acknowledged industry-wide, and is a known thing, and is continuing to be improved. And I don't know anybody on our committee that has the expertise in that necessarily, so that's something we could follow up on and get back to you.
Any more comments, questions from council? Anybody interested in the motion?
Mayor, I move that the town council adopt ordinance number 16, series of 2022 on second reading.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Pam, please call the roll.
Absolutely. Get David Knight down here. Thank you. Okay, let's begin with Dieter Schindler,
Yes.
David Knight,
Yes.
Glenn Drummond,
Yes.
Elise Hoddle,
Yes.
Ryan Slack,
No.
and Bill Kane.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Okay, there's the companion piece to this, which is the second item, which is resolution number 56, series of 2022.
Mayor, I move that the town council adopt resolution number 56, series of 2022.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. We can approve this with voice votes. So all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Nay.
Okay, was that 2 nays?
2 nays.
Okay. So we got 4-2 on that one. Okay. So, thank you very much. That concludes the discussions on the building code amendments and the roadmap to net zero. Thanks, everybody that stood by. So,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll move on to our next item, which is item 5C. It's a continued public hearing, second reading of ordinance number 19, series of 2022. Ordinance of the Town of Basalt, Colorado, approving amendments to the municipal code section 18-13, tree management, James Lint and Chris Beazer. So,
Thank you.
James?
Yeah, this item is a continued public hearing and second reading of an ordinance that would approve of amendments to section 18-13, which is tree management of the town code. The proposed amendments are attached in the draft ordinance that's in your packet, and they were recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission. The proposed amendments are intended to better clarify the tree removal mitigation requirements and allow for the town arborist, Chris Beiser, to more effectively administer tree removal permits. Chris Beiser went through the proposed amendments in detail with the council at the last meeting, and council approved the ordinance on first reading. There have been no changes since the first reading approval, And as such, staff is happy to answer any questions that council might have. We do have Chris on the Zoom call again this evening. So staff would recommend taking public comments because it is a public hearing, and then providing council discussion. And ultimately, if you're comfortable with the proposed amendments, you could approve the ordinance on second reading. Chris, do you have anything to add this evening?
No, I think that between the last reading and what you just stated, we've pretty much covered it. Most of the updates are, again, just bringing the ordinance up to speed with modern day technical terms in the industry, creating a better roadmap for how we decide what mitigations are required for tree removals, and as well as tying in some of our other ordinances, such as the ESA requirements that we have with the town and how that relates to the tree ordinance, as well as then just clarifying some of the details as far as when tree removal permits are required versus when they're not.
Questions? This is public hearing, so we will take public comment if there's anyone that would like to call in, or anyone in the audience like to comment on our amended tree ordinance.
If you're on the Zoom call and would like to make comments on this item, if you could please raise your hand. Thank you.
Justin and Kale are here for another item.
Sure.
Okay, hearing none. Questions from council?
There's a question out of curiosity. The Siberian elm and Russian olive section there, it says they're not included with the term tree. Those are, those are kind of nuisance trees. Those can be cut down no matter what, whenever or is that how this paragraph reads?
Correct.
Okay.
That's kind of how it's meant to be read, is that the homeowner has the right, and in fact, the town encourages removal of those trees whenever a homeowner feels that they have the financial ability to do so. A lot of times in practical use of this, I still encourage homeowners to call and ask questions about those sorts of situations. A lot of times I will still write up a tree permit for it just so they have it in hand, because there are always questions from neighbors and from people driving by. And that way they have that document saying, hey, the arborist confirmed, yes, this is an invasive species. But technically, yes, they are allowed to remove those trees, and in fact are encouraged to remove those trees whenever they can.
Okay, cool. That's great. Thanks.
Yep.
Any other comments, questions? Motion to approve the tree ordinance on second reading.
Mayor, I move that town council adopt ordinance number 19, series 2022 on second reading.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Pam, please call the roll.
Absolutely. Let's begin with Elise Huddle.
Yes.
Ryan Slack,
Yes.
Bill Kane,
Yes.
Dieter Schindler,
Yes.
David Knight,
Yes.
and Glenn Drummond.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So next item
Thank
up
you.
is item 5D. This is the Basalt Sanitation District Midland area improvements for the lightning bolt sewer line. So this is to provide direction to staff to pursue a design referred to as the lightning bolt. Kind of an ironic title for a sewer line. And associated cost sharing arrangement to improve the Basalt Sanitation District line as it relates to the impaired service line along the Midland spur impacting the Midland Avenue Streetscape Project, Lions Park, and the BCC property. So got Yancey Nichols, nice to see Yancey back here, and Catherine and James. So you guys got it.
Mayor, I need to recuse myself.
Okay. Please do so.
This item is consideration of a cost share deal points on the lightning bolt sanitary sewer improvement. As background, in adopting the Basalt Center Circle BCC project approvals for the construction of a mixed-use building at 140 Basalt Center Circle, which is the former Clark's Market property, there was a condition that was included that there be a cost share agreement on the lightning bolt sanitary sewer improvement brought back to the town council. The lightning bolt improvement would be a new sanitary sewer connection from the sanitary sewer main that's running adjacent to Two Rivers Road and it would connect it to the other sanitary sewer main, which is known as the lightning bolt line that goes under the Basalt River Park. And it would connect those. Making this improvement allows for the correction of line capacity issues in the sewer main in the Midland Spur area, which is over here where they have capacity issues. It also allows for the sewer main running under Lions Park by Town Hall to be abandoned, giving the town better flexibility in the future for planning on the Lions Park site. The lightning bolt improvement would benefit the Basalt Center Circle applicant, the town, as well as Basalt Sanitation District. And the deal points have been provided for the cost share agreement between the three parties, in which the town staff has identified that the town would contribute no greater than the $272,000, which is roughly proportionate to the cost savings the town would see on the Midland Avenue streetscape project by making the lightning bolt connection. The remainder of the deal points were provided to council in an email, as well as you have them at your seat. They include that the BCC applicant would manage the lightning bolt project on behalf of the Basalt Sanitation District. Staff is looking for a motion from the council approving the deal points in principle this evening, and staff would bring back a formal agreement to the council in the future. We do have Yancey here this evening to kind of reiterate the benefits and go over the technical aspects of the lightning bolt. Yancey, do you have some additional comments?
Sure, thanks, James, and thanks for letting me be before you. Sopris Engineering and some of the streetscape consultants, we've spent a lot of time trying to analyze what we call this lightning bolt. And through the Sand District inspections and TVing the lines, like James said, the sewer line 011 to 012 has some capacity issues. 012 to C2 to CX and on over to C1. There is SAGs, capacity issues and infiltration, which we call I&I, so sand districts have to treat groundwater at their sewer plant. And the real big benefit to the town is 012 to C2 will be able to raise that sewer from about 10 to 11 foot depth up to around 5 and get out of the groundwater. So when we do incorporate the streetscape project, it allow it to probably be built in less than half the time, the impact on the community, and a lot cheaper. And then what it allows for the Sand District, as they need to deal with 011, 012, and on downstream in the future, they can bring it up out of the groundwater, which is a long-term benefit, because these lines have to go under. These lines were deep because it goes under the Roaring or the Frying Pan River to get over to the school area, and by cutting it off, going to the lightning bolt, we can raise that side, because then it only serves the part of the town that's on the north side of the Frying Pan River. So that's some real long-term benefit to the Sand District and to the town. And then of course, the other benefit it does is, like James said, that line C2 to CX comes right through this parcel. And part of this analysis, we looked at other alternatives in the future if you wanted to get rid of that line. You're talking way over $1 million for other different alignments. So this site would probably have that line forever. And you got a unique situation where the streetscape project, BCC, and the Sand District, we can all make this happen, timing construction to take care of a lot of that benefit. That's why you're seeing savings on potentially the streetscape that's equal to your contribution. It's a long-term benefit. And the Sand District's after anything to get rid of I&I. And I can go into a lot of different,
No, it's fine. Is this PVC pipe? What's the material?
The existing pipes are
Vitreous clay, I think.
clay pipe, and some of it's been slip lined, and of course it goes up and down, and personally, clay pipe is a 200 to 500 year type pipe, but what happens in our environment, our ground's always moving, and so the joints slip and trees get into it, so we don't use it anymore because of that issue. So, and your streetscape, you know, we don't want the sand district to have an issue and have to cut through your streetscape project in the next, I would say, 30 years or less. But so I think this is a really good opportunity to the town of Basalt, the sand district, and then you've got a partnership with BCC because of the timing.
So if we don't do this one, we're gonna spend more trying to upgrade the existing alignment?
Yeah, like we've said, the cost to the town would be the same. You're just going to replace the sewer in a deeper line under your streetscape, but then the cost to the sand district and BCC would be greater. And in fact, downstream, they wouldn't have to do it now, but they were going to have to replace some other lines in the near future that you're going to be taking a lot of effluent out. So it really allows them to push other maintenance further down to the road because of the amount of effluent. The lightning bolt's going to take about 60% of the sewer that's in this line, and only 40% is going to be left up in that deeper sewer.
How much groundwater? I mean, does Basalt Sand District even have a concept of that?
Well, they actually do, because they know the how many gallons per day they're getting at the plant per EQR versus, and then they and us both have your water meter readings when non-irrigation season, and we could see it on the tape a little bit, but it's hard, and of course it varies from spring runoff when the river's high versus what it is today where it could be very low, so it's a fluctuation. So they have a pretty good idea.
And how long have they known about this?
Well, the infiltration in Sand District, they've known for 50 years. They've reduced it by, I know personally, they've reduced it tremendous, 10, 20, 30-fold. They just have some infiltration in certain areas. So we might be talking 10, 15 gallons a minute at high peak time. So we're not talking a huge amount, but of course it gets worse rapidly once it starts doing that, so it's something that they'd like to get rid of.
And they're in the midst of doing a study right now to try to better get their arms around the issue.
Yeah.
And I think that's my biggest frustration is, I mean, their whole job is to take care of this kind of stuff. If you end up with this problem, and then taxpayers are gonna foot $272,000 because of basically negligence, that rubs me the wrong way.
Well, some of it's maintenance of.
Negligence.
Well,
Deferred maintenance.
Deferred maintenance, but if we're gonna have to do that line from
No,
11 regardless with our project.
I'm in full
We're
agreement.
passing the buck, but we're.
Yeah, like they're benefiting because they were lazy.
Well, or cheap.
Both.
So Yancey, are you the consulting engineer for the sanitation district, or you?
I'm not.
Okay.
Roaring Fork Engineering is, they've reviewed our work, they've advised their board and et cetera all the way through it, and they've fully agree with our analysis.
So, okay, I'm just trying to keep the program straight. So
Yeah.
you're our consultant, basically, yeah.
Yes, I'm basically working for the town on the streetscape team. I am also the consultant for BCC, and of course BCC, they are willing to fund towards whatever the solution. Obviously to them, they don't care what the solution is. Obviously it affects them if it's a cheaper solution, which this is actually, but it's by far the better solution for everybody.
Yeah.
And their consulting engineer, Roaring Fork, has drafted a complete memo that summarizes their agreement with Yancey's findings, and that's gone to their board,
Yeah.
so they've,
So the sanitation district has approved this line and the deal points and.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same level you're going to move forward to an agreement that gets signed by all parties and approved, that will have the details, you know.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I
Yeah,
may,
go ahead, Jeff.
just procedurally where we're at is, there's been just kind of discussion going around and coalescing around these deal points on a staff level. So the goal for tonight is to get some approval in principle to these deal points from the town council, and then we come back with a formal agreement with more detail on all all this stuff for formal approval by the town council. And the principal deal point is the town's contribution of up to $272,000 towards the project. The total anticipated project cost is
$1,040,000.
okay, and that number was arrived at because it was kind of roughly equivalent to the expense that was anticipated as part of the streetscape project. There are several other deal points that are in the staff memo that was in the packet updated today. Most of them are I think, more or less what you just heard here today, kind of what the proposal is, and then how that would be bid out and managed and pursued. And so, again, those are in your packet if you have any questions about those. So, in any event, the hope is to get approval on these deal points from council, or otherwise discuss those deal points to see if there's things we need to fine tune, but then come back with that formal agreement.
Okay.
Does everybody think it's a good idea that the Basalt Sand District bids it out and then it's managed by somebody else, or should it be bid out by who's gonna manage it?
The town, I'll let the
Town
engineers
doesn't
talk
care.
about this, but the town doesn't want to manage this project.
Yeah, I knew that. And that's a benefit to the town, is we don't have to manage it.
David?
Yeah, so yeah, kind of related to that, given we have, three, BCC's managing it, we have three parties involved, like, can you double click on what that governance process is gonna look like, not just during bid, but through the life cycle of the Lightning Bolt project?
Yeah, it'll be a little bit to be determined, but a similar example is a Two Rivers Road project. We did that as a partnership with that developer, and there was, some intricate details that we all, worked through around, how the shared partnership would work, costs and otherwise, and the intent would be to do something similar with this. We've already sent that agreement to the district so that they can start considering how that one was formed, in the hopes that that would provide some framework for a new one. But when we come back to you all, of course, all the details of that agreement would be ripe for discussion at that point. But I just say that will all be negotiated at staff level and then for your approval.
Thanks.
And one other point that I'd like to stress, so that this council understands, is it's a really timing issue, challenge, because of the streetscape advantage. You guys probably been hearing, and you had the update on where the streetscape is. This is a key point of that, and so our design team is rapidly finished the 30%, and we're trying to move that forward. Well, this decision actually affects the design of that project and the bidding, so we need to move this very rapidly, or we're going to lose the opportunity, or it could might, but wouldn't necessarily affect how we could do the timing of the streetscape, which is actually more impactful, I think, to the community, because right now we control the schedule, but if we push things back, then pretty soon that controls the schedule and not us. So I just want to make you understand we're pushing this as rapidly as we can, correctly, so we can keep everything going at the same time. And the way we're envisioning is that SOPR, since we've been designing it, we would finish up the drawings, and the Sand District would review and comment and make sure we're in compliance with all their rules and regs, approve those bid documents, we'd advertise it, go out to competitive bids, review those, recommend to the Sand District who that best contractor is. We're all hoping it's still, the same contractor we're using for the streetscape, but we can't guarantee that. And then SOPR's engineer of record would certify that work to the Sand District along with their own engineer.
But the engineering costs and some of those other soft costs have been included in that $1 million, and there's also a contingency, so we feel like, that number going into it is a fair assessment of the remaining costs.
In our max is, as far as what we're talking about tonight, is gonna be that 272, right?
That's what we proposed this evening.
Correct.
Okay.
What's the timeline on putting that lightning bolt in?
Well, the lightning bolt timing is probably going to be driven by what works best for the streetscape. My opinion, where I sit right now today with the design is if we can do the lightning bolt first, then it saves a lot of pump by a sewer in the streetscape project, which allows the contractor to do a better and easier job, and allows him to do that sewer stretch, which is one of the first pieces. So I'm going to challenge our team in the town to try to do it that way. Obviously, there's a lot of details. That's the entrance to town and winter conditions, which is still, we feel, better than groundwater. We can deal with winter conditions better than we can groundwater in this deeper sewer.
Because if this isn't done before, you're gonna have like pump trucks to pull
Now,
this.
what you
or
do-
containment tanks and then pump it into another line and.
Well, you pump from manhole to manhole for hundreds of feet around it, and then you have to have a man it 24 hours all through the night in case that pump quits for environmental safety. So there's a lot of reasons to get that effluent out of that job so you don't have to pump it by.
I guess more of my question too is like, how long is the center of town gonna be shut down putting that line in?
Oh, it's been,
4 months, I bet.
you know, you're probably talking winter conditions, 4 to 6 weeks with trenching, and then of course you're gonna wait and maintain it till asphalt plants start in the spring, but we'll be out of there with gravel in the trench area that will be maintained, and then you'd pave it later on, so.
Could be like road base then for the rest of the winter.
Similar to what we're talking about for the streetscape project.
Wanna make sure we.
Yeah, plan your vacation.
Oh, it's just, okay, I mean, we gotta get the word out on this one, so.
Yeah.
All good questions.
Additional questions, comments?
Mayor, I move the town council approve the lightning bolt sewer line cost sharing deal points.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. I think we can do this by voice vote. So all those in favor of approving the deal points for the lightning bolt signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good work, Yancy. Good to.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Glad you're on our side on this one.
Thank you.
Yancy's from Wyoming.
I know. Yeah, little tiny town called Wilson.
Did you see the intelligence kind of like bristling?
I don't know if you're right, that was a serious comment, Bill.
Went to school in America.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, before we get to our next agenda item, I was reminded that we, when dealing with marijuana licensing, we will typically have a motion to convene as the local licensing authority, so.
Thank you for that
Thank you, Glenn,
reminder.
for the reminder, and,
Mayor, I move the town council move into the licensing authority. Is it the liquor or is it just marijuana?
Generally it's liquor
local
license.
licensing authority.
Mayor, I move that we convene the local licensing authority.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right, so we are now convened as the local licensing authority. The first of these renewal requests is for recreational and retail marijuana license renewal for RFSCB LLC doing business as Roots. So, Pam.
And I believe, are you Cotton? Cotton, why don't you have a seat up here if you wouldn't mind, please? Thank you.
Are you going to handle all three of them, or you just have
No,
Roots?
this is Cotton Kohler. He is representing RFSCB LLC, doing business as Roots
Okay.
RX this
Correct.
evening. Rob Holmes is traveling tonight, so we'll be handling each of these separately, of course. So the town has little to say on the renewal of this. The applicant's comment, or all the investigating agencies' comments, are present. Police department, building department, fire department, planning department, finance clerk have all made their recommendations for renewal. On this application, we haven't had any violations. Anything, Chief, that you have to add or want to add? Okay, they are still in compliance with all of the local rules and restrictions and with their security measures. And we've had no complaints, we've had no comments from the public since we posted the property or noticed the property for renewal.
How long have the renewals run?
1 year.
1 year, okay. Okay, well, any comments, questions?
No, but it's a public hearing.
But it is a
Oh,
public
it
hearing,
is a public hearing,
yes.
correct.
Mhm.
So, this is a public hearing. Anyone here on site or calling in for renewal for Roots? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion or questions, discussion.
Mayor, I move the town council approve the renewal of the recreational retail marijuana license for RFSCB LLC DBA as Roots RX located at 165 Southside Drive, Basalt.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded, this roll call or,
You can do a voice vote.
okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, any nays? Okay, so that takes care of Roots. The next item.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks, have a good one.
Good work. The next item is request for renewal of medical marijuana license renewal for Down Valley HYH LLC, the Good People.
Okay, again, we have Justin Strebe and Kale LaCrue joining us via Zoom tonight. One was traveling, the other one had kids to keep an eye on this evening. So they are present.
Hello, council.
Again, we have, I would update their memo this evening to notice that the fire department, the fire department has cleared their issue with their extinguishers that they had at their building. Those have been inspected, and they're all back up to speed there. We've had no issues with Down Valley HYH, Good People, on their medical licensing. We've had no comments from the public in opposition to renewal of this license.
Comments, questions?
Public hearing.
Public hearing. Anyone from the public care to comment? Call in. Audience, no. I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, move that town council approve renewal of medical marijuana license for Down Valley HYH LLC DBA Good People located at 175 Midland Avenue, Unit 110, Basalt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Approved.
And last but not least, again, we have their recreational retail license for Down Valley HYH, Good People. Again, no issues, no comments from the public. We've had no complaints or violations since their last renewal.
Anybody in the public care to comment? This is a public hearing. Calling in, no. In the audience, no. Any questions, comment from council? Do you gentlemen want to address council, offer anything?
This is Kale LaCrue, and now I'd just like to say, I think, as most of you are aware, we are in the process of transitioning and selling the license to new ownership. That is starting. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to say thank you to everybody for your continued support over the years, and it's been a pleasure and an honor to provide something for the town of Basalt, and looking forward to it changing hands and moving to a new location. So thank you, Pam, for all your help, and Chief Knott for all your support, and council in general. So thank you.
And I second that. Thank you very much for everybody's time and effort to help us out and make it all happen from start to finish.
Great.
Thank you very much.
You gentlemen. Comments, questions?
Mayor, I move the town council approve the renewal of recreational retail license for Down Valley HYH LLC DBA Good People located at 175 Midland Avenue, unit number 210, Basalt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
That's our last order of business for tonight, council, so thanks, everybody. Good meeting.
Somebody should have said something.
We'll see you in October, huh?
Homecoming.
All be good now. All be good.